Oh, okay. Um, Jeff has asked me about the beginning of my comic strip Trots and Bonnie, which I did in some underground comics and then also in National Lampoon magazine. And uh, how was it developed? Um, I was working with a group called the Air Pirates in San Francisco, and everyone was creating their own comic strip. So Trust and Bonnie was my comic strip. And just, it was about a 13-year-old girl and a dog who talked conveniently so he could deliver punchlines. The 13-year-old girl was very much like me, incoherent and very lonely and not really very savvy about anything in the world. Everything hit her hard in the world, and she was mystified by it. So I had to invent. Well, the dog helped, and then I invented a friend who was very, you know, uh, tough and knew everything and had an opinion about everything, and carried a gun in her purse. And she was patterned after a real woman that I knew that I used to go to riots with. And I always felt really safe with her, even though she was 4'9". But she did have the gun in her purse. And she was up on everything. She knew about every kind of movement you could possibly know about. She was a feminist and she was an anarchist, and she was a lot of fun. And she's not around anymore. And uh, so this strip, these three people, I drew a lot of different comics at that time when I was working with these guys in San Francisco. And this one just kind of hit the mark in terms of the art style and what I had to say, because it was very, very personal and very contemporary, and even more contemporary considering that it was only, I had only been 13 a few years before I started drawing it. Um, so uh, I, oh, and I'll tell you, I realize it was very sexual in nature, and in not just that, but it was something that I did. The Air Pirates were working with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck's nephews and things like that, and doing these comics. Well, I wanted my version of anti-Disney work was showing kids like they really were. And these little girls were, I felt, a lot more realistic than the Disney version girls that you found on the Mickey Mouse Club, that were always so perfect and never had a zit and never had a naughty thought and never did anything naughty. And I just didn't think that that was very realistic, and I wanted to show women as they were. And apparently, some people were like that too. So anyway, that's a kind of in a nutshell how it was developed. And then Michelle Chiquette, who was doing the Someday Funnies for Lampoon, came along, and we met him. And then my husband at the time, Bobby London, and I went back to New York, and we just hung out. We hung out at the Lampoon offices, and they loved his stuff, and so they said, well, gee, why don't you do comics for us? So we ended up doing comics. He got a big page and I got a little page. And so I got the 52 cents on the dollar that the man did at the time, which was, of course, an issue. Well, not really an issue. I was glad to be working and I was glad to have my space. And I was very happy that we were very much uncensored there. And so that was a great environment to work in. So I just continued doing that comic strip, and I did some others that didn't have 13-year-old girls in them, that had adults in them, and I just like to do stories about things that I didn't see anyone else doing a story about. And the Lampoon wanted me to do something that I couldn't do in the Sunday paper if I were to be syndicated. So that was pretty easy. So that was what I did. I'm going to look at my next interview question here.